My family forgot me in hospital, so I changed everything. A true story of dignity found in the darkest hour. Chapter 1: The empty chair beside my bed. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me, that harsh fluorescent lighting that seems to drain the color from everything. Makes you feel sicker than you already are. The nurse had settled me into room 210. The one overlooking the inner courtyard, where sparrows came pecking for crumbs that nobody ever left. The linoleum floor reflected the hurried footsteps of doctors, creating echoes that got lost in the emptiness of my thoughts. The cream-colored walls, meant to be calming, pressed in on me with their neutrality. As if pain could be contained by a coat of paint. "Mrs. Margaret, are you sure you don't want to ring your children?" The doctor's voice was gentle, too gentle. Like she already knew the answer. She was young, this doctor. Couldn't have been more than 30. Same age as Claire when she had her first baby. I still remember that day. The excitement, the tears, the whispered promise. "Mum, you'll always be part of her life." Promises. How little promises weigh when life gets in the way. I've rung them. My voice was barely a whisper. Twice. 3 times. Lost count really. Truth was, I remembered exactly. 5 calls to David. The phone ringing into emptiness. The answer phone repeating the same message. Leave a message after the tone. 4 to Claire. 2 rushed responses. "Mum, can't talk now. I'll ring you back." But that call back never came. The doctor nodded, understanding. She sat on the edge of the bed. Something many doctors avoid, keeping that professional distance. But not her. She still had that humanity that years on the ward hadn't worn away. "Sometimes," she began, then paused. Like she was searching for the right words. "Sometimes the kids, as they grow up, they drift away." Drift away. As if it was natural, inevitable. Like autumn leaves. But leaves come back in spring. Children don't. I'd prepared everything. My burgundy handbag, the one David gave me for my 60th. Last time he'd visited with a gift. 10 years ago. A lifetime ago. My wool slippers, the ones Claire always said were too tatty. "Mum, get some new ones, these are embarrassing." But they were comfortable, and they'd walked with me through better days. Faithful companions. My recipe notebook, where I wrote down favorite dishes and important phone numbers. The page open to the apple crumble, the one David loved as a boy. Margin full of notes. Extra cinnamon. Less sugar. David always has seconds. I'd even prepared my smile, the one I saved for special occasions, for when they came home. I'd practiced it in the bathroom mirror, before the ambulance arrived. Wanted to look presentable. Didn't want them to see me like this, weak, sick, old. But the days passed. 1, 2, 5. And that chair, that bloody green plastic chair beside my bed, stayed empty. Like a silent witness to their silence. The chair had chrome metal legs, slightly rusted at the joints. The seat worn concave, shaped by years of waiting, of vigils, of goodbyes. How many people had sat there, holding a loved one's hand, whispering words of comfort, shedding tears of sorrow or joy. I spent the first night awake. Every time I heard footsteps in the corridor, my heart would leap. Here they are. I'd think. They've come. But it was always the nurses, or relatives of other patients. Never mine. The footsteps had different rhythms. The hurried ones of doctors, always late for some emergency. The slow, tired ones of night shift nurses. The hesitant ones of visitors, not quite sure where they are going. And then there were the footsteps I was waiting for. David's confident stride, he always walked like he had somewhere important to be. Claire's lighter step, she used to run on tiptoes as a little girl. But those footsteps never came. Mr. Tony in the room opposite had 3 kids. They came in shifts, every day. Brought him the newspaper. The Otago Daily Times he'd read for 50 years, the peppermints he loved, the ones with the green wrapper. Sometimes I'd hear him laugh. A full laugh, the kind that comes from the heart when you're surrounded by love. His room was always full of voices. The eldest son talking about work. The daughter showing photos of grandkids on her phone. The youngest cracking jokes, trying to lighten the mood. It was a symphony of family, a concert of care that reached me muffled through the half-open door. I just stared at that empty chair and wondered when it had happened. When I'd stopped being important. When I'd become a burden, a duty to postpone. The night nurse, Louise her name was, had tired but kind eyes. She always smelled of coffee and disinfectant, a strange mix I'd come to associate with the small hours. She'd find me awake, sitting up in bed, staring at that chair. "Can't sleep, love?" Her voice was a whisper, so as not to disturb the other patients. "Waiting," I'd reply, though I no longer knew for what. "Your kids work hard, do they?" "Yes," I'd lie. "David's got the business, always busy, meetings, important clients. Claire with the little ones, can't get away easily, and she lives quite far." But the truth was different. The truth was they lived 20 minutes' drive away. David in that lovely house with the garden in Remuera, where he never invited me. Claire in her modern flat in Ponsonby, the one I'd helped her buy by selling Mum's jewelry. The truth was David drove past the hospital every day on his way to work. I knew because his office was 2 blocks away. On Queen Street, where we used to go for ice cream when he was small. The truth was Claire had left the kids with her mother-in-law the week before to go to Queenstown. I knew because Betty told me, my neighbor. The only one who'd come to visit. With her purple cardigan, and her way of saying things straight. Margaret saw them at the supermarket. Buying wine for a dinner party. That expensive stuff, the Central Otago Pinot your son-in-law likes. A dinner party. While I was here, with tubes in my arm and fear in my heart. A dinner party with friends, laughter, toasts. And their mother in hospital, forgotten like old furniture in the attic. The chair kept staring at me. And I stared back. Like a silent standoff. Who'd give in first? Who'd admit defeat? It had scratches on the back. Maybe someone nervous had picked at it with their nails, or maybe just the marks of time, of use, of countless vigils. I wondered how many stories that chair had witnessed. How many farewells, how many returns, how many promises kept or broken. Outside the window, Auckland's sky changed color. From the pale pink of dawn to the uniform grey of a typical spring morning. A blanket of low clouds that promised rain. As always in September. The sparrows returned punctually. To search for those crumbs that weren't there. They'd hop on the windowsill, tap the glass with their beaks, then fly away disappointed. Like me, searching for a love that perhaps never existed. Or that had worn away along the path, without me noticing. The phone on the bedside table stayed silent. An old grey thing, one of those with the heavy handset. I'd stared at it so long I knew every scratch on its plastic surface. Every stain, every imperfection. Like an archaeologist studying an ancient artifact, trying to understand its history. Every now and then I'd lift it, to make sure it still worked. The dial tone was there, strong and clear, that familiar hum that tells you the world outside still exists, that you could communicate, if only someone wanted to listen. It was the signal that was missing. "Mrs. Thompson, you need to eat something." The orderly held out the breakfast tray. A sturdy girl, from the islands maybe, with an accent that softened her words. Lukewarm tea, 2 pieces of toast, jam in little packets. The usual hospital fare. Not hungry. You need to keep your strength up, for when they come to visit. For when they come. As if it was certain. As if it was just a matter of time. As if the world still worked according to the rules I'd learned. The ones that say children rush when their mother's ill, that family's sacred, that blood's thicker than water. But I felt time running out. Not the time of my life, that was still solid. The doctors had said so. It was a nasty bout of pneumonia, but you'll recover. Your lungs are still strong. No, it was another kind of time that was ending. The time for illusions, for excuses, for justifications. The time when I could still pretend they were busy, that they'd forgotten, that there was an explanation. A valid reason why their mother was alone in a hospital bed while they dined with friends. The empty chair sat there, immobile, inexorable, like a silent judge who'd already passed sentence. And I, for the first time in 70 years, was beginning to accept it. But accepting didn't mean giving up. No. It was something different. Like when you clean dirty glasses and suddenly see the world as it really is. Sharp, raw, real. The rain started pattering on the window. Heavy drops that streaked the glass like tears. The sky had turned dark, threatening. The sparrows had taken shelter under the eaves, wise in their simplicity. And I stayed there. In my hospital bed. With my empty chair for company. And a truth growing inside me, slow but unstoppable. Like a plant breaking through tarmac to find the light. Maybe it was time to stop waiting. Maybe it was time to look forward, not back. Maybe that empty chair wasn't a condemnation, but an opportunity. The space for something new, something real, something chosen. But not yet. I wasn't ready yet. There was still a part of me that hoped, that justified, that loved blindly. The clock on the wall showed 11. Soon lunch would arrive. Another meal to stare at without appetite. Another round of medicines. Another blood pressure check. Another night approaching. And them, somewhere they were living their lives. Unaware or indifferent. I didn't know which was worse. The chair kept watching me. Hospital green, like operating theatre walls, like surgeon scrubs. A green that should soothe but instead distresses. The green of dying hope. I closed my eyes. But the image of the chair remained. Burned into my eyelids. Like a brand. Like a promise. Or a threat. Tomorrow would be another day. Another wait. Another silence to fill. But something told me things would change. I didn't know how, didn't know when. But something was about to happen. I felt it in my bones. In these old bones that had learned to recognize changes in the weather and in life. The rain kept falling. Monotonous, hypnotic. And I drifted into light sleep, populated with memories, with distant voices, with chairs that filled and emptied. Like tides. Like breath. Like life itself. Chapter 2: The Voices of the Past. The second day in hospital, the fever had dropped, but the emptiness inside me grew. The nurses came and went, with their hurried steps and professional smiles. The medicine trolley squeaked at the same times, 8 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 8 at night. A rhythm that marked my days like a broken metronome. The room had taken on the contours of forced familiarity. I knew every stain on the ceiling, every crack in the wall. The tap that dripped every 33 seconds. I'd counted. A stupid occupation, for a mind that didn't want to think about more important things. But my mind was elsewhere. Traveling through time, going back 30 years, 40. When this hospital room didn't even exist in my worst nightmares. I closed my eyes and saw them. Clear as living photographs. David at 6, his first day of school. The blue uniform with the grey shorts. Hair carefully combed, but already rebellious, escaping the brush like his nature escaped the rules. "Mum, do I have to go?" His little hand tight in mine. Trembling a bit, but trying to be brave. Like his father, always hiding emotions behind a mask of strength. "Yes, darling, but you'll see, you'll love it. You'll make lots of friends." And he had. He'd come home with stories of Jason who could whistle, of Mark who had All Blacks cards, of Emma who'd kissed him on the cheek during morning tea. I saw them as kids. David with his unruly curls that never stayed put, not even with the gel I used on Sundays for church. Claire with the plaits I did every morning, while she complained I pulled too tight. "Mum, you're hurting me." But then she'd run to look in the mirror, satisfied with the result. "Mum, look what I made." David's voice still echoed in my ears. Running towards me with a painting in his hand, a yellow sun with wonky rays, a house with a chimney that always smoked even in summer, and the three of us, stick figures, hand in hand. "It's beautiful, darling, shall we put it on the fridge?" And I would. Every drawing, every scribble. The kitchen had become a gallery of childhood art. Colored paper, wax crayons, felt tips that stained everything. A museum of maternal love. Claire was different. More reserved. She didn't run to show her work. She'd hide it in her school bag, until I found it while preparing her things for the next day. "What's this?" I'd ask. And she'd blush. "Nothing, Mum, just a drawing." But they were always beautiful. Princesses with impossible dresses, castles with 1,000 towers, gardens full of flowers in unlikely colors. A fantasy world where everything was possible, where love always won. She'd hide behind my skirt when visitors came. Shy to a fault. But at night, when I tucked her in, she'd transform. Become chatty, affectionate. She'd tell me all the day's secrets. "You know, Mum, today the teacher said I'm good at reading." "Really? I'm so proud of you. And you know what? Sarah invited me to her birthday party. Can I go?" "Of course, love, we'll buy a nice present." And then, inevitably, before falling asleep, she'd whisper in my ear, "Love you to the moon and back, Mummy. To the moon and back." A phrase from a book I always read her. The story of a little rabbit who wanted to express how much he loved his mummy and couldn't find a measure big enough. To the moon and back was the most he could imagine. When had she stopped saying it? When had those words turned into silences, into hurry, into don't have time, Mum? I'll call you back. It was gradual. Like the erosion of mountains. Imperceptible day by day. But devastating when viewed across the years. Their hands. I remembered their hands. Small, sticky, always reaching for mine. With those tiny fingers that gripped mine, as if I was the only certainty in a world too big. Mum, hold my hand. When we crossed the road. And I'd squeeze tight, feeling the responsibility of that life entrusted to me, of that absolute trust. Mum, your hand. When they were scared of the dark. And I'd sit on the edge of the bed, their little hand in mine, until their breathing became regular, until sleep conquered fear. Mum. When the world seemed too big and they too small. When a classmate teased them, when they fell and scraped their knees, when Dad raised his voice. And I was there. Always. Hand extended, heart open, arms ready to welcome, to comfort, to protect. I got out of bed with effort. My legs trembled a bit, the effect of the medications, or maybe the years. It didn't matter. I could do it. I had to move. The doctor had said so. Don't stay in bed all the time, Mrs. Thompson, take a few steps. I approached the window. The glass was dirty, opaque, like my memories. Layers of dust and dried rain, like patterns of time that no one bothered to clean. I cleaned them with my pajama sleeve, creating a small window of clarity in the midst of the fog. Outside, in the hospital courtyard, a young mother pushed a pram. An older child walked beside her, holding onto the edge, his little hand gripped to the fabric like an anchor. Every now and then he'd look up at her, seeking confirmation, smiles, attention. The mother was distracted, looking at her phone. Answering the child's questions mechanically. Yes, darling. In a minute. We'll see. Automatic responses from someone who's there in body, but not in mind. I wanted to shout from the window. Look at him. Listen to him. You don't know how precious this moment is. You don't know how quickly it flies away. How it becomes a faded memory. But I said nothing. Who was I to give lessons? I who'd made the same mistakes, maybe worse. Too caught up in work, in chores, in daily survival to really see my children. I returned to bed slowly. Each step required concentration. The shiny floor was treacherous, slippery. The hospital slippers didn't help. Those horrible green paper things with cardboard soles. The pillow was damp. I hadn't noticed I'd been crying. The tears fell silently, like autumn rain, without storm, without thunder, just a quiet sadness that soaks your soul. I remembered the smell of their hair. That mix of baby shampoo and childhood sweat. The smell of talcum powder after bath time, of nappy cream. Smells that defined motherhood, that marked the boundaries of my world. Mrs. Thompson. The nurse's voice brought me back to the present. A young girl, couldn't have been more than 25. With those green eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface. How are you feeling today? Fine. I lied. Just a bit tired. You didn't sleep much last night. I saw you awake when I did my rounds. During the night shift she passed every 2 hours. Like a silent ghost, checking drips, monitors patients. Sometimes she'd find me with eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I'd pretend to sleep, to avoid conversation. Thinking about your children. I nodded. No words were needed. My glance towards the empty chair said everything. She came closer, adjusted the blankets with expert, but gentle movements. There was something maternal about her despite her youth. As if she'd learned early what it means to care. You know, she continued while checking the drip. Sometimes children, as they grow up, they forget. It's not meanness, it's just life sweeping them away. Life sweeping them away. Like a wave that carries you off, far from shore, far from home, far from those who gave you life. A wave that seems like freedom, but is often just drift. Do you have children? I asked. A little girl, 5 years old. Sophie. Her face lit up. As always happens to mothers when they talk about their children. That involuntary smile, that softening of features, that light in the eyes. 5's a lovely age. Yes, exhausting too. Never sits still. Asks 1,000 questions. Wants to know everything. Always tell her the truth. Even when it's uncomfortable. Children understand more than we think. She sat on the edge of the bed. A gesture that went against protocol, but made the conversation more human. What were yours like when they were small? And so I told her. About David who collected stones. He'd bring them home in his pockets. I'd find them in the washing machine. Mum, they're special. And I'd keep them in a box, pretending to throw them away. About Claire who talked to her dolls. Serious conversations about imaginary problems. Mrs. Brown is very sick, we need to operate. And then the operations with needle and thread on the poor rag doll. They sound like lovely memories. They are. The problem is they are only memories. There was a moment of silence. One of those that says more than words. She understood. Despite her age, despite her daughter still being small. She understood the emptiness created when memories are all that's left. Maybe. She began. Maybe you should focus on who's here, instead of who's missing. Who's here? Mrs. Betty, for instance. She's come every day. She stops at the nurse's station, asks about you, always leaves something, a flower, a biscuit, a magazine. Betty. My neighbor for 30 years. Who I'd considered just an acquaintance. A greeting on the landing, some chat at the shops, borrowing sugar and eggs. And there's Louise, the night nurse. She always talks about you. Worries. Says you're one of the most polite patients. And there's you. I added. She smiled. And there's me, who shouldn't be sitting here chatting, but always finds an excuse to stop by. The nurse left after a while, called back to her duties, leaving me alone with new thoughts, or maybe old thoughts seen from a different perspective. The memories returned. But different this time. David as a teenager, face full of spots, voice breaking. Mum, you're embarrassing. He'd say it when I walked him to school, when I talked to his friends, when I existed too much. Claire at 16, made up like a woman, clothes getting shorter, outings more frequent. You don't understand anything, Mum. She'd shout it, slamming the door, leaving me in the hallway with my heart in pieces. But there were good moments too. Evenings in front of the telly, all together on the sofa. Me in the middle, them on either side. The tartan blanket over our legs, popcorn in the big bowl. Films we'd seen 1,000 times, but watched again. Hot chocolate in winter, when they came home from school frozen. Hands around the mug, steam fogging David's glasses. Claire dunking biscuits. Ice creams in summer, walks to the dairy in town. Arguments about which flavor to choose. David always faithful to chocolate. Claire changing every time. Me with my fruit sundae. Holidays at the beach, at that modest motel in Mount Maunganui. Always the same, 3rd floor, partial sea view. The owner who knew us by name, who made spaghetti bolognese the way David liked it. Sandcastles, when they still wanted to build them with me. Competitions to see who could make the tallest tower, moats that filled with water, shells for decoration. When had it all changed? It was gradual, like the wearing away of rocks. Imperceptible day by day, devastating when viewed across the years. First it was dinners. Mum, not coming tonight, got to study. And I'd leave a place at the table, a portion in the fridge. For when you're hungry. Then weekends. Mum, going out with mates this Saturday. And I'd spend Saturday night in front of the TV, with the phone beside me. In case they ring. Then holidays. Mum, we're going to the in-laws for Christmas, see you after. And after became Boxing Day, then New Year, then never. After. Always after. And after that stretched, expanded, became never. And me? I adapted. Told myself it was normal, that children have to live their own lives, that I couldn't expect, that I had to be understanding. Modern. I called myself a mother who understands, who doesn't smother, who gives space. But maybe I'd given too much space. So much that in the end there was no room left for me. But now, in this hospital bed, with the taste of medicine in my mouth and fear in my heart, I wondered if being understanding hadn't been my biggest mistake. Maybe I should have shouted, cried, demanded. Asserted my rights as a mother, as a person, as a human being who needs love. I wasn't asking for much. A phone call, a visit, a "How are you, Mum?" But even that had become too much. Instead I'd smiled. It's okay, darling, see you when you can. And meanwhile my heart emptied, drop by drop, like an hourglass turned upside down that no one bothered to flip. The afternoon slipped away slowly. The light changed from white to golden. The hour I preferred, when the sun came in at an angle through the window, drawing long shadows on the floor. It reminded me of childhood afternoons, when my mother taught me to knit. The light coming through the kitchen window, the needle glinting, the wool threading through the fabric. Slowly, Margaret, take your time, the important thing isn't to finish quickly, it's to do it well. Life lessons disguised as knitting lessons. My mother who hadn't studied, but who knew everything worth knowing. Love, patience, sacrifice. The things you don't learn from books. Dinner time approached. The sounds of the hospital changed. The clink of trolleys, the smell of institutional food, more tired voices, slower steps. The shift change approaching. From the corridor came fragments of conversation. 307 needs another drip. Mr. Wilson had a turn. Pharmacy sent the wrong medicines. The hospital routine continuing, indifferent to personal dramas. And the chair remained empty. That evening, for the first time, I stopped waiting. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was more like falling asleep. A slow slide into acceptance. But with acceptance came something else. A strange peace. Like when after a long climb you reach the top and can finally catch your breath, look at the view, understand where you've come from and where you want to go. The phone rang. My heart leapt, then another. My hands trembled as I reached for it. Hello. Margaret. It's Betty. How are you, love? The disappointment was like a punch to the stomach, followed immediately by shame. Shame at being disappointed to hear the voice of someone who actually cared about me. Betty. I'm fine, thank you. Am I disturbing? Just wanted to know how you were. Couldn't come today, my sister needed me. Don't worry, you don't need to come every day. I know I don't need to, but I like to. Tomorrow I'll come for sure. I'll bring your magazine, and I've made biscuits, those almond ones you like. The almond biscuits. She made them every time someone wasn't well. It was her way of saying I'm here. I'm thinking of you. You're not alone. Thank you, Betty, you're a treasure. Nonsense, see you tomorrow then, rest up. I hung up. The phone seemed heavier than before. Or maybe I felt lighter. As if that call had shifted something, changed a perspective. Betty, who had no obligations to me, who didn't share my blood, who owed me nothing. Yet she was there. Every day. With her biscuits, her purple cardigan, her chatter about the weather and prices at the shops. And then there was Ellen, the nurse with green eyes, who stopped to talk when she could, who told me about her daughter, who treated me like a person, not a bed number. And Louise from the night shift, who brought me hot tea when she saw me awake, who sat for 5 minutes when the hospital slept, who talked about her homeland far away, the family she'd left. Maybe that was the message of the empty chair. Not an absence to mourn, but a space to fill. With real people, with chosen affections, with love that asks nothing in return. Night fell slowly on the hospital. The lights dimmed, the sounds muffled. The world slowed, prepared for sleep, or vigil, depending which side you were on. I was on the side of those who keep vigil. But it was no longer a vigil of waiting. It was a vigil of reflection, of understanding, of preparation for change. Tomorrow would be another day. Another chance to see that chair. But now I knew it would no longer be empty. Even if physically it would be full of possibilities, of choices, of future. I closed my eyes. Not to sleep, but to see better. And in the darkness of my mind, the green hospital chair transformed. It became all the chairs of my life. The rocking chair where I nursed the babies. The kitchen chair where they did their homework. The lounge chair where we watched TV together. The empty chair at Christmas dinners in recent years. And then, like a film dissolve, I saw new chairs. Chairs occupied by smiling faces. Chairs around a table full of life. Chairs just waiting to be filled by those who would choose to sit. The second chapter of my life in that hospital room was closing. But I could already sense the third. And it would be different. Very different. The rain had stopped. Through the window came a fresh breeze that smelled of spring, of wet leaves, of damp earth, of rebirth. And I was ready to be reborn. Chapter 3, the phrase that sparked something. The third day dawned with a timid sun. One of those that in spring seems to apologize for existing. It filtered through the blinds, creating stripes of light on the floor, like the bars of a prison, or a cage that was opening. I'd woken early. before the hospital even began its morning routine. In that suspended hour, when the seriously ill finally sleep, and the less serious think too much. The chair was still there. But now I looked at it with different eyes. No longer as an accusation, but as a fact. A reality to accept, indeed, from which to start. The cleaning trolley squeaked past. The cleaner, a sturdy woman from Eastern Europe, nodded to me in greeting. She was there every morning, silent, efficient, invisible to many. "Good morning," I said. She stopped, surprised. As if no one had ever spoken to her. "Good morning," she replied with a strong accent. "How are you?" "Better, thank you." "And you?" She smiled. A smile that lit up her tired face. "Good, thank you for asking." Her name was Oksana. I'd learn later. She came from Ukraine. Had 2 children, one at university, the other still at high school. Worked at the hospital for 10 years, night shift and early morning, to pay for the boys' studies. But that morning she was just the cleaner, who'd stopped to talk, surprised that someone saw her as a person. It was the 4th day, or maybe the 5th. I'd lost count. But it didn't matter anymore. It wasn't chronological time that counted, but inner time. And my internal clock showed it was time for change. The night nurse was still there. Shift change was at 7, just a few minutes away. It was Ellen. I'd recognized her by her voice, by that gentle way of entering the room. That night she found me awake, as always. But different. My gaze was no longer fixed on the chair, but on the window, on the world beyond the glass, on the possibilities beyond the walls. "Can't sleep, can you, Mrs. Thompson?" I turned to her. She was tired. You could see it in the dark circles under her eyes, in her slightly hunched posture. In the way she leaned against the wall while talking. "Sleep is for those with a clear conscience," I replied without thinking. It was a phrase my mother always said. When I'd find her up at dawn, in the kitchen, with her cup of tea. "Why aren't you sleeping, Mum?" I'd ask. And she'd always give me that answer. "And yours isn't." I thought about it. A clear conscience. What did it really mean? To have always done right. Never to have made mistakes. Or was it something else? I don't know anymore. Maybe I got everything wrong. Ellen approached. She put the medical chart on the bedside table. Sat on the edge of the bed. A simple gesture, human, that no one had made for days. Breaking protocol, professional distance. But sometimes rules need to be broken, to touch a soul. Want to talk about it? And strangely, I did. Maybe it was the night, that strange hour when defenses fall. Maybe the loneliness, the need to tell someone, anyone, what weighed on my heart. Maybe it was her, with those green eyes that seemed to understand without judging. "I have 2 children," I began. My voice trembled a bit, but I continued. "I raised them alone after their father left. 30 years ago. He'd found someone else, younger, prettier, everything." Ellen listened in silence. Hands in her lap, attentive gaze. "I worked 2 jobs. The morning at the factory, afternoons cleaning offices. To support them, to let them study, to give them everything I could." The memories flowed like a river in flood. Unstoppable. The rushes from work to home, lunches prepared in haste, homework checked late at night, school plays I always arrived late for, but I arrived. I gave up everything. Never remarried so as not to give them a stepfather. Never went out with friends. Never took a trip, a real holiday. I lived for them, only for them. My voice cracked. The tears pressed, but I held them back. It wasn't time to cry. It was time to understand. And now. My voice broke. Now they don't even come to visit. I've been here for days and they, nothing. As if I don't exist. The silence that followed was dense, loaded. Like the air before a storm. Ellen didn't say anything for a while. She let the words settle, let the pain find its space. It was then that Ellen said those words. Words that pierced my chest like a scalpel, opening a wound I'd kept closed for years. You know, Mrs. Thompson. Her voice was serious, loaded with an experience that shouldn't belong to someone so young. There are families that don't deserve the love they receive. She looked me in the eyes, and I saw she spoke from experience. There was a story behind those words. A story of pain, of understanding, of acceptance. I've seen so many situations here. She continued. Parents who gave everything, and children who take without ever giving back. Like emotional vampires, they suck the love until there's nothing left, and then they disappear. Emotional vampires. The image was raw, brutal, true. It made me think of horror films I used to watch as a girl. Creatures that feed on others' life, that leave only empty shells. But they are my children. I protested weakly. The last defense of a mother who doesn't want to see. So what? Blood doesn't justify indifference. Doesn't transform selfishness into love. You, Mrs. Thompson, you deserve more. Deserve more. 3 simple words. But it was as if someone had turned on a light in a dark room. Suddenly I could see. See years of unrecognized sacrifices, of one-way love, of excuses for unacceptable behavior. But what did I do wrong? The question came out like a sob. Where did I go wrong? Ellen shook her head. Maybe you loved too much, gave too much, without asking for anything in return. Sometimes unconditional love becomes invisible, taken for granted. Should I have asked? Demanded? You should have taught that love is reciprocal, that respect is earned but also expected, that being a mother doesn't mean erasing yourself. Her words were like slaps. They hurt, but they woke me up. Made me see what I'd always known, but never admitted. My mother always said. Ellen continued, her voice softer now. That love is like water, it goes where it finds space. If someone closes the door, the water finds another way. She lifted my chin gently, the way you do with children when you want them to look you in the eyes. Think about who really cares about you. Don't waste your love on those who can't appreciate it. She stood up. Adjusted my pillow with maternal gestures that contradicted her young age. There was wisdom in her. An understanding that came from having suffered, from having learned. Your shift is over. I said. You should go home. In a bit. First I want to tell you something. She sat again, this time on the chair. That chair that had been empty for days. My mother raised me alone. Like you. My father left when I was 2. I never really knew him. I looked at her with new eyes. There was a connection between us. An invisible thread made of similar experiences. She worked like mad, Double shifts, nights, holidays. To let me study, to give me a future. And I. Her voice cracked. I was a stupid ingrate. Don't say that. It's the truth. I was mean to her. I was ashamed of her modest clothes, of her foreign accent. I never invited her to school events, to prize givings. I was ashamed. The tears flowed now, free, without shame. When she died, 5 years ago, I was at uni. I didn't come home for Christmas that year. I had an important exam, or so I told myself. She died alone, in a hospital bed, like you now. The parallel was painful, cruel, necessary. That's why I became a nurse. To give others what I couldn't give her. Love, presence, respect. We looked at each other. 2 women, 2 generations, 2 stories that mirrored each other. Don't make my mistake, Mrs. Thompson. Don't waste your love on those who can't see it. Give it to those who can receive it, who return it, who truly see you. She stood up. This time definitively. Her shift had been over for ages. At home Sophie was waiting, her little girl, her second chance. Think about what I've said. You still have so much love to give. Don't waste it. And she left, leaving me alone with thoughts that whirled like leaves in a storm. That night I didn't sleep. But it wasn't like the other nights. It was no longer anxious waiting, doubt, sick hope. It was something different. A kind of awakening. Like when you've had a high fever for days and suddenly it breaks, and you see the world with new eyes. I deserve more. The phrase echoed in my mind like a mantra. I deserve more. It wasn't selfishness, wasn't demand. It was justice. It was dignity. It was love for myself. I thought back over my life. All the times I'd put them first, always. My dinners skipped to prepare theirs. Clothes patched to buy theirs. Sundays spent cleaning their rooms, instead of going out with friends. The no's I'd said to myself. The opportunities lost. The invitations refused. No thanks, have to get home, the kids. Always the kids. Even when the kids had become adults, with their own lives, their own homes, their own priorities. And for what? To reach 70, alone in a hospital bed, with an empty chair as my only company. Dawn came slowly, tinting the white walls pale pink. The sparrows were already in the courtyard, tireless in their daily search. But I no longer watched them with sadness. There was something admirable in their persistence, but also in their ability to fly away when they found nothing. Maybe that's what I needed to do too. Fly away. Not physically, but emotionally. Stop begging for crumbs of love, settling for leftovers, justifying the unjustifiable. That morning, when the day nurse came in with the medicines, she found me different. Sitting up in bed, hair combed, gaze straight ahead. Good morning, Mrs. Thompson. How are you feeling today? Better. And it wasn't a lie. For the first time since I'd been there. I really did feel better. Not in body, that was still weak. But in soul. Something had been repaired. Or perhaps, had finally broken completely, freeing me. I picked up the phone. But not to call them. My children who were no longer mine, who perhaps never really had been. Not in the way that counts. I dialed another number. One I knew by heart, but had never considered important. Bradbury Law Offices, good morning. The secretary's voice was professional, courteous, distant. Like all voices that answer a switchboard. Good morning, this is Margaret Thompson. I'd like to make an appointment with Mr. Bradbury. It's urgent. There was a pause, the rustle of pages being turned, probably the appointment diary. Mr. Bradbury is very busy this week. Could you come next Tuesday? No, my voice was firm, decided, new. I can't wait. I'm in Auckland Hospital, room 210. It's about my will. The word will changed everything. The tone became more attentive, more solicitous. As always when inheritance is mentioned, money, property. Oh, I see. Let me check, Mrs. Thompson. More pages turned, whispers in the background, probably the secretary consulting the lawyer. Mrs. Thompson. Mr. Bradbury can come to see you tomorrow afternoon. Would 3 o'clock suit? Perfect. I'll expect him. Should I notify your family? No. This is my business alone. I hung up. The die was cast. Or rather, was about to be cast. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't revenge. It was something deeper, more definitive. It was the realization that Ellen had sparked. I deserve more. And for the first time in my life, I would act accordingly. The rest of the day passed in a strange calm. Like the sea before a storm. Or after, when everything has been decided and there's nothing left but to wait. Betty came in the afternoon. With her purple cardigan and almond biscuits. She sat on the chair, that chair I no longer feared. How are you today, love? Good, Betty, really good. She looked at me puzzled. There was something different about me. She could sense it, even if she couldn't define it. You look, I don't know, different. I've made an important decision. Oh yes. And what's that? Tomorrow the lawyer's coming. I need to sort some things out. Betty understood immediately. She was an intelligent woman, practical. She'd seen enough of life to understand without needing explanations. Your children haven't come, Betty. 5 days and they haven't come. I know, love. I know. There was a moment of silence. One of those that says more than words. Betty took my hand. Squeezed it tight. A simple gesture worth more than 1,000 speeches. You do what you need to do. She said finally. Do what you have to do. We stayed like that, hand in hand, 2 elderly women who understood each other, who supported each other, who cared for each other. Without blood ties, without obligations, just by choice. Evening came with its rituals. The shift change, the medications, the bland dinner. The muffled sounds of the ward preparing for night. Ellen wasn't there. It was her day off. But Louise was there, the night nurse from before. The one with tired but kind eyes. You look different tonight, Mrs. Thompson. Everyone's saying that today. It's a good thing. You seem more at peace. At peace. Yes, perhaps that was the right word. After days of inner turmoil, I'd found calm water. Safe harbor. Direction. That night I slept. For the first time since I'd been there. Sleep without dreams, without nightmares. The sleep of someone who's made a decision, and knows it's the right one. The empty chair didn't disturb me. It was just a chair. A piece of green plastic. Nothing more. Nothing less. I'd given it meaning. And now I was taking it away. Tomorrow would be an important day. The day I'd take back control of my life, my choices, my future. But that night, I slept. The morning of the 5th day arrived with decisive sun. One of those that autumn rarely gives Auckland. As if even the weather wanted to celebrate my decision. I woke rested. For the first time in days my head didn't feel heavy, my thoughts were clear, my determination solid. I had breakfast with appetite. The tea tasted like cardboard and the toast like sawdust, but it didn't matter. I was hungry. Hungry for life, for change, for future. The day nurse, a middle-aged woman I'd never seen before, noticed the change. "You look well this morning, Mrs. Thompson." "I feel good, today's an important day." "Oh yes." "Discharge?" "No, liberation." She looked at me puzzled but didn't ask more. She had enough experience to know when not to ask questions. I spent the morning preparing. Not physically, that was simple. But mentally. I went over the years, the sacrifices, the renunciations. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Every memory was a piece of the mosaic. Every disappointment a confirmation. Every absence a liberation. At noon I rang Betty. "Can you come a bit earlier today? The lawyer's coming at 3. "Of course, love, do you want me there?" "Yes. I'd like that." "Then I'll be there. See you soon." Lunch came and went almost untouched. Not from lack of appetite, but from anticipation. Like before an important exam, or a job interview. Or a rebirth. At 2:30 Betty was already there. She'd worn her good dress, the blue one with the gold buttons. She'd even put on a bit of lipstick. In my honor, or perhaps in honor of the occasion. "You look smart today. It's an important day." I wanted to look appropriate. We exchanged a knowing smile. One of those born from deep understanding, from true friendship, from chosen affection. At 3 o'clock sharp Mr. Bradbury knocked on the door. Chapter 4, The Will. Mr. Bradbury entered with that mix of professionalism and humanity that only experience can give. A man in his 60s, grey hair carefully cut, grey suit pressed to perfection, gold-rimmed glasses that gave him a professorial air. He carried his inseparable brown leather briefcase. The one that had always accompanied him. Worn at the corners, scratched by time, but still dignified. Like him. "Margaret." He greeted me warmly. We'd been on first-name terms for years. 20 years of small and large legal matters. "I'm sorry to find you here. How are you?" I'd known him since the divorce. When my world had collapsed around me, and I needed someone to guide me through the maze of papers, of laws, of rights I didn't know I had. He'd been more than a lawyer, he'd been a guide, a support, almost a friend. "Better, Frank, thank you. Have a seat. This is Betty, my neighbor, my friend." Betty blushed slightly at the term friend. As if she wasn't used to being called that. As if it was an honor. The lawyer shook Betty's hand courteously, then sat down. That chair that had been empty for days now welcomed the person who would help me turn the page. "You said it was urgent." "Yes. I need to make changes. To the will. To the will, to life, to everything." He understood immediately. Not many words were needed. He opened the briefcase, took out documents, his vintage fountain pen, a notebook for notes. He adjusted his glasses on his nose. "Let's proceed." He looked at me over his glasses. That look I knew well. The one that said, "I'm here for you, but I want to be sure you're convinced." "Are you certain?" I looked him straight in the eyes. Without hesitation, without doubt. I've never been more certain in my life. "Good, then let's proceed. What do you wish to change?" I breathed deeply. The air tasted of disinfectant and medicine, but to me it smelled of freedom. Everything. I want to change everything. And I began to speak. My voice firm, clear, decided. Every word weighed, every decision considered. It wasn't an impulse. It was the result of days of reflection, of years of disappointments, of a lifetime of unrequited love. "The house," I said, "will no longer be divided between David and Claire." The lawyer took notes in silence, professional, without judging. Betty held my hand, a silent anchor of support. "It will go to Betty Fitzgerald, my neighbor. She deserves a place to grow old in peace." Betty gasped. "Margaret, no. I can't." "You can and you must. It's decided." The lawyer continued writing. The fountain pen glided over the paper, transforming words into legal reality. "The house at 15, 2 Street registered in the name of Margaret Thompson, will pass by inheritance to Mrs. Betty Fitzgerald." He dictated as he wrote. "Is that correct?" "Correct." "The savings in the account?" I continued. My voice didn't waver. The decision was made. $20,000, not much but hard-earned. I leave to the city mission. The one on Hobson Street, where I used to volunteer. I remembered the faces of those people. The gratitude in their eyes for a hot meal, a smile, a kind word. They really knew how to appreciate even the smallest gesture. They didn't take it for granted. They didn't demand it as their due. The Auckland City Mission. Hobson Street. Is that correct? Yes, exactly. The family jewelry. I paused for a moment. Those were memories of my mother, of my grandmother. Pieces of family history. I'd always kept them thinking I'd leave them to Claire, for her to pass on to her daughters. Another illusion. The granddaughters I saw maybe at Christmas, when things went well. And they looked at me like you look at dusty furniture, with annoyance, with embarrassment. The jewelry goes to Ellen Conti, the ward nurse. She has a 5-year-old daughter. Sophie. She deserves to have something beautiful to leave her daughter. The lawyer looked up. For the first time since he'd started writing. Are you sure, Margaret? They are valuable pieces. The pearl necklace, the emerald ring, they're important jewelry. That's exactly why. They go to someone who knows how to value things and people. Ellen, who stopped to talk, who treated me like a person, not a bed number. Who had opened my eyes, who had said those words. You deserve more. Ellen Conti, employee of Auckland Hospital, Medical Ward. Is that sufficient to identify her? Yes, you'll find her easily. I continued with the small things, but no less important. The books to the public library, where I used to go read when the kids were at school. My novels, the biographies, the cookbooks. All to the library, so others could enjoy them. My book collection, about 300 volumes, to the Auckland Central Library. My father's paintings to the art gallery. They weren't masterpieces, but they were beautiful. Landscapes of the Bay of Islands, still lifes, portraits. My father painted them on Sundays, his only day off from the factory. He'd made them with love, they deserved to be seen, appreciated. The paintings by Joseph Wilson, my father, to the Auckland Art Gallery. The China service, the one from my wedding. I'd kept it for special occasions, that never came, or when they came weren't special enough. 12 place settings, plates, cups, serving dishes. All intact, never used in recent years. The Wedgwood China service, complete service for 12, to St. Matthew's Church, for their community meals. At least there it would be used. For parish dinners, children's parties, occasions of shared joy. Betty cried silently. Tears of emotion, not sadness. She squeezed my hand tighter and tighter. And for David and Claire, the lawyer finally asked. The question I'd been expecting. The one I'd thought about longest. I didn't want to be cruel, but I didn't want to be foolish either. Not anymore. I looked him straight in the eyes. $1 each. The legal minimum. So they can't contest. The silence that followed was dense. Full of meaning. The lawyer studied me carefully. Perhaps looking for a sign of second thoughts, of doubt, of weakness. He found none. It's a strong decision, Margaret. There could still be a legal battle. I know. But I don't care. What I had to give. I've already given. All my life. My love, my sacrifices, my renunciations. I have no more debts to them. Haven't they come to visit you? It was the first time he'd allowed himself a personal question. But I'd known him for 20 years. He had the right. No. 6 days, and nothing. Not even a phone call, until they find out about the will. I understand. And he really did understand. You could see it in his eyes. It wasn't the first case of this kind he'd seen. Probably wouldn't be the last. The lawyer prepared the documents. Wrote them carefully, in beautiful handwriting. Every word in its place, every comma important. The law required precision, and he was precise. Do you want me to read everything? Yes. I want to be sure. And he read. In a professional, but not cold voice. Every clause, every bequest, every decision. It was all as I wanted. As it should be. Your signature is needed here, and here, and here. I took the pen. My hand didn't tremble. I was calm, serene. At peace with myself as I hadn't been in years. I signed. Margaret Thompson, in cursive, clear, decisive. It wasn't just a signature. It was a declaration of independence. A moment of awareness. An act of love, towards myself, towards those who deserved it. We need 2 witnesses. I can. Said Betty. Me too. It was Oksana, the cleaner. She'd come in for the afternoon shift. She'd understood what was happening. She'd stopped at the door, respectful but present. If Mrs. Thompson permits. She added. Of course, Oksana. I'd be pleased. 2 women who cared about me. Without obligations, without blood ties. Just by choice. By genuine affection. They signed too. Betty with her old-fashioned handwriting, like a retired primary school teacher. Oksana with Cyrillic characters transformed into Latin letters, but clear, proud. Done, said the lawyer. The will is valid from now. He put the documents back in the briefcase. He stood up. He looked at me with what seemed like respect. You've done a brave thing, Margaret. No. I've done the right thing. I should have done it sooner. Better late than never. Do you want me to notify your children? He asked as he prepared to leave. No. They'll find out when the time comes. If they ever notice I'm gone. He shook my hand, warmer than usual. As if he too understood, approved in some way. If you need anything, call me. Thank you, Frank, for everything. He left, leaving us alone. 3 women, 3 stories, 3 lives that had intersected. I stayed silent for a while, savoring the moment. It wasn't revenge I felt. It was peace. Completeness. Like when you finish a puzzle and the last piece clicks into place. Margaret. Betty broke the silence. I can't accept the house. It's too much. I looked at her with affection. This woman who had been more family than my real family. Who had never asked for anything, who had always given. Betty, all these years you've been the only constant. The only real presence. When I was ill you came. When I needed something you were there. Without asking, without demanding. But that's what friends do. Exactly. Friends. Real family. Not the family of blood, the family of the heart. And your children. My children made their choices. I've made mine. Oksana approached, shy. Mrs. May I say? Of course, Oksana. In my country, we have saying. Not mother who gives birth, is mother who raises. You were mother, they not children. Folk wisdom, simple, direct, true. We stayed there, in the afternoon silence of the hospital. 3 women of different ages, different stories, united by something stronger than blood. Choice, affection, mutual respect. The chair beside my bed was no longer empty. Betty's bag was on it. Oksana's shawl that she'd taken off in the warmth, the lawyer's documents I'd kept. It was no longer the symbol of an absence. It had become the symbol of a presence. Of presences. Chosen, wanted, loved. That evening, when Betty left, promising to return the next day, when Oksana finished her shift, wishing me good night in her imperfect, but sincere English. I felt rich. Not with money. I'd given that away. Not with property, those too. But with real affections, with chosen bonds, with reciprocated love. The phone rang. It was David. The tone was different. Agitated, angry. Mum? I've heard about the lawyer. You can't do something like this. I've already done it. But we're your children. And I'm your mother. But that didn't stop you forgetting about me for 6 days. We were busy. Love is also a business, David. It requires time, presence, choices. I'll come tomorrow, we need to talk. It's not necessary. There's nothing to talk about. But. Good night, David. I hung up. Without anger, without pain. Just with the awareness that some doors need to be closed so others can open. That night I slept deeply. Without dreams, without nightmares. The sleep of someone who has made peace with themselves, with their choices, with their life. The chair was there, hospital green, silent witness to tears, to waiting, to disappointments. But also to rebirths, to brave choices, to new beginnings. It was no longer empty. It was full of possibilities. Chapter 5. The chair is no longer empty. The seventh day arrived with fine rain. The kind Auckland knows well. That doesn't really wet you but seeps into your bones. The sky was uniform grey, like a wool blanket spread over the city. But inside me the sun was shining. A new sun, different. That warmed not from outside but from deep within. From choices made, from chains broken, from freedom found. The doctors were pleased with my progress. The pneumonia was receding, my lungs clearing. Breathing returning to normal. A few more days and you can go home, Mrs. Thompson. The consultant had said during rounds. Home. What a strange sound that word had now. No longer a place of futile waiting, of silent phones, of empty chairs. But a place to fill with new life, with chosen affections, with full days. The morning passed peacefully. Breakfast, medicines, routine checks. The hospital had its rhythms, unchangeable, reassuring in some way. But I no longer belonged to that world. I was already projected outside, towards the life that awaited me. Around midday David arrived. I heard him before I saw him. His footsteps in the corridor. Fast, decisive, angry. I still recognized them, after all these years. Like a mother recognizes her child's cry among 1,000. He entered without knocking. Face tense, hard gaze. He wore his grey suit, the one for important occasions. With the red tie I'd given him for his birthday, 3 years ago. The last time he'd come to visit. Mum? The word sounded strange, forced, like clothes that no longer fit. David. He stopped in the middle of the room. Didn't approach the bed. Didn't sit. Stayed there, standing, as if in a courtroom. You can't do this. What? The will. You can't disinherit us like this. Straight to the point. No, how are you? No, sorry I didn't come sooner. Just business. Just money. Just presumed rights. I haven't disinherited you. I've left you $1 each. It's the same thing. No, David. It's not the same thing. It's the symbol of a relationship. Worth what it's worth. He stepped closer. Face red, neck veins swollen. Like his father when he got angry. I'm your son. And I'm your mother. But that didn't stop you forgetting about me. I was busy. The business, clients. I can't drop everything. I didn't ask you to drop everything. I asked you to visit your sick mother. Half an hour, a phone call. I did call. When you found out about the will. The blow hit home. I saw him step back, as if I'd slapped him. It's not about the money. Oh no. Then why are you here now? After 7 days. Silence. A silence that said everything. That confirmed what I already knew. That made my decision even more right. The house is worth 300,000. He continued, voice lower, almost pleading. You can't give it to a stranger. Betty isn't a stranger. She's more family than you. But she's not blood. Blood? I laughed. A bitter laugh, without joy. Blood doesn't make family, David. Choices due, presents, love given and received. I've always loved you. In your way. When it suited. When it didn't interfere with your life. That's not true. 7 days, David. 7 days in hospital and you didn't come. You live 20 minutes away, you drive past every day. I didn't know it was serious. And how could you know without coming? Another thrust. Another silence. He finally sat. On the chair. That bloody chair that had been empty for days. Mum, think again. There's still time. No. Think about Claire, the girls. Your nieces. The ones I see at Christmas if I'm lucky. Who don't even know my name. You're exaggerating. Really? What's the eldest called? Sarah. Sophie. Her name's Sophie. And she's 8, not 7. I saw him redden. He'd confused her with the nurse's daughter, whom I'd known for 3 days, but already knew how to love. Claire's desperate. She has the same timing as you. 7 days of silence and now she's desperate. She'll come this afternoon, she wants to talk to you. It's not necessary. Mum, please. We're your family. The word family echoed in the room like an off-key bell. Empty, meaningless. A social convention, nothing more. Family is chosen, David. You don't just become. You grow into it. With daily gestures, small attentions, constant presence. But you chose differently. That's fine. It's life. But every choice has consequences. He jumped up. The chair wobbled, almost fell. He steadied it with a nervous gesture. This isn't over. Yes, it is. It ends here. Today. Now. I'll sue. Go ahead. Mr. Bradbury is prepared. And I'm in full possession of my faculties. It's that woman, isn't it? Betty. She's manipulated you. I smiled. A real smile this time. To think of Betty, her sweetness, her discreet presence, and imagine her as manipulative. Betty knew nothing. She found out yesterday. And she didn't want to accept. But she will accept, you'll see. Yes, she'll accept. Because I'll ask her to. Because she deserves it. Because she really cares about me. We care about you too. No, David. You care about what I represent. Mother, therefore duty, therefore inheritance, therefore rights. Not about me. Margaret, person, woman, human being. He headed for the door. Stopped at the threshold. Turned. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. And he left. Slamming the door. Leaving behind a heavy silence, but not oppressive. A necessary silence, liberating. I was alone. But I didn't feel alone. The room was full of invisible presences. Betty. Ellen. Oksana. The people who had chosen to be there, without obligations, without ulterior motives. In the afternoon Claire arrived. Different from David. More subtle. More theatrical. She came in crying, threw herself at the foot of the bed, took my hand. Mum? Mum, why? The tears seemed real. But I knew her. As a child she'd cry on demand when she wanted something. A talent she'd perfected over the years. Get up, Claire. It's not dignified. She got up, sat on the chair, dried her eyes with a handkerchief, checked the effect in her compact mirror. I don't understand, Mum. What have we done wrong? Nothing. That's the point. You've done nothing. Neither wrong nor right. Simply nothing. But we've been busy. The girls, the house. Robert. Always the same excuses. The same refrains. Like a broken record that's been playing for years. 7 days, Claire. I was here, sick, alone. And where were you? But I didn't know it was serious. And you didn't bother to find out. New tears. More intense. More dramatic. She looked towards the door, as if expecting an audience. The girls are always asking about you. Really? Why haven't I seen them for 8 months? They are busy: school, dance, swimming. And weekends. There are competitions, recitals, friends. And Grandma. Where does Grandma fit in all this? Silence. A silence that was answer enough. Mum, the house, it's our history, our memories. Exactly. Memories. The past. Not the present. Not the future. But to Betty. The neighbor. It's not fair. What's fair, Claire? That I die alone while you're on holiday. That I spend holidays alone while you're with the in-laws. That I wait for a call that never comes. You're exaggerating. The facts speak. 7 days. 0 visits. 0 calls. Until you found out about the will. She stood up. The tears stopped like a tap turned off. Her face hardened. You won't get away with this. I don't need to get away with anything. I just need to live. What's left? How I want. With who I want. We'll sue. Go ahead. You have $1 each. The legal minimum. You can't contest. We'll find a way. Mental incapacity. Undue influence. Try. I have the consultant, the nurses, the lawyer. All witnesses to my clarity. She left too. Without saying goodbye. Without looking back. The last image of my daughter. A rigid back, a door closing, a definitive silence. 2 hours later the phone rang. It was Betty. Love? How are you? I saw your children leaving. They looked angry. Yes. It's normal. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's liberating. About the house. I don't know if you'll accept. Because I'm asking you to. Because I care about you. Because you're the family I've chosen. Oh, Margaret. Her voice cracked. I care about you too. I know. You've shown it. Not with words. With actions. With presence. With constancy. Shall I come tonight? Come. Bring cards. Let's look at old photos together. The nice ones. Shall I bring biscuits? Always. That evening was sweet. Betty arrived with her bag full of treasures. Photos from 30 years of being neighbors, of friendship, of shared life. Remember this. Our first Christmas on 2E Street. A faded photo. The two of us on the doorstep, younger, more naive. With coats from the 80s, impossible perms. And this? When we went to Rotorua. Another life. Another time. But the same affection. The same complicity. That had grown over the years, matured like good wine. Ellen passed by during her shift. How are you tonight? Good. Look. My family. I showed her the photos. Her and Betty. Betty and me. The three of us together. It's a beautiful family. The best. Because it's chosen. She sat for a moment. Despite the work waiting for her. Sophie was with her grandparents that night. She had some time. Did your children come? They came. They left. And? Nothing I didn't expect. Money, house, rights. Duties zero. Love less than zero. Does it hurt? I thought about it. Did it really hurt? No. Not anymore. It was like taking off tight shoes. At first your feet hurt. Then relief. No. I'm fine like this. The three of us looked at the photos together. 3 generations of women. 3 different stories. But one single truth. Love is chosen. Not endured. The days passed quickly after that evening. My health improved. Discharge approached. My children never showed up again. As expected. As feared. As hoped. The day of discharge arrived with splendid sunshine. October had decided to gift a summer day. Like a prize. Like a blessing. The doctors were satisfied. You've recovered wonderfully, Mrs. Thompson. Go home and enjoy life. Enjoy life. Yes. That's what I intended to do. For the first time in 70 years. While I packed my things, the burgundy bag, the wool slippers, the notebook, everything had a different meaning. No longer symbols of futile waiting. But companions for a new adventure. Ready? Betty appeared at the door. Dressed up. Her new coat, camel color. The one she'd bought in the sales, but never worn. For special occasions, she'd say. Is this a special occasion? The most special. I'm taking my best friend home. Ellen came to say goodbye. With Sophie. We wanted to say goodbye. The little girl hid behind her mother, shy. Come here, sweetheart. She approached slowly. Curious eyes. Little hands behind her back. I made a drawing. A sun, a house, 4 figures holding hands. How? Mummy, me. Betty. It's beautiful. I'll put it in the kitchen. Really? Really? It's the place of honor for masterpieces. She hugged me. Spontaneous. Warm. The way only children can. Without calculation. Without ulterior motives. Will you come back to see me? Whenever you want, sweetheart. Promise. Promise. Oksana came by for the last farewell. Best wishes, Mrs. Beautiful life outside. Thank you, Oksana. For everything. No thanks. You good person. Deserve real love. Another hug. Another bond. Another thread in the weave of my new family. I left the hospital on foot. Refused the wheelchair. I wanted to walk. Feel the earth under my feet. The air in my lungs. Freedom in my veins. Betty took my arm. Not to support me. I was strong enough. But to share. To be there. To celebrate together. Her old Honda waited in the car park. Faithful as its owner. Where to? Home. But first a stop. Where? The cafe. The one with tables outside. A coffee, a cake. Like two proper ladies. We laughed. Like schoolgirls. Like friends. Like sisters. At the cafe we sat in the sun. Generous October. Hot coffee. Cream cakes. Life beginning again. You know what I'll do first thing at home? What? Change the lounge furniture. Out with those sad sofas. Bright colors. Soft cushions. A place to receive friends. I like it. And then I want to travel. See places. Meet people. Live? Alone? No. With you. If you want. If I want. It's a dream. We toasted with our coffee cups. To the future. To friendship. To chosen love. The journey home was short. But significant. Every traffic light, every turn, every street, had a new flavor. Of freedom. Of choice. Of life. When we arrived at 2E Street, the sun filtered through the branches, creating patterns of light on the tarmac. Like a blessing. Home. I looked at it with new eyes. No longer a prison of memories, but a treasure chest of possibilities. Coming in. Just for a minute. I need to water your plants. Then I'll let you rest. No. Stay. I'll make tea. The good stuff. And we'll finish the biscuits. We went in together. The house smelled closed of absence, but also of promises. Of rebirth. I opened the windows. October air came in fresh, taking away the old, making room for the new. While Betty watered the plants, I made tea. The good china. The one for special occasions. What occasion more special than this? We sat in the lounge, facing each other. Steaming tea, biscuits on the plate. Afternoon sun coming in at an angle. To new beginnings. I toasted. To new beginnings. She replied. And in that moment I understood. The hospital chair was no longer empty. It never would be again. It was full of all the love I'd chosen to welcome. To give. To live. My children. Somewhere they were living their lives. Distant, absent, lost. But it was no longer pain. It was fact. Like hair color, or height. Something I'd made peace with. The phone rang. I looked at it. Then looked at Betty. Aren't you answering? No. Those who need to reach me know where to find me. The others can wait. We laughed. And the phone stopped ringing. Like a chapter closing. Definitively. Outside the plane trees were losing their leaves. Yellow, orange, red. A colored carpet on the footpath. Autumn advancing. Winter preparing. But inside me it was spring. A late spring, but no less beautiful. No less full of promise. The chair beside me wasn't empty. Betty was there. Later Ellen would come. Sophie at the weekend. Maybe Oksana tomorrow for coffee. My family. The real one. The chosen one. The one that fills not just chairs, but hearts. And as the sun set over Auckland, over Tui Street, over my new life, I thought that 70 years wasn't so many. There was still time. To live. To love. To choose. The hospital chair was far away. A fading memory. A symbol that had lost its power. Because now all my chairs were full. Of real love. Of chosen presence. Of possible future. Epilogue. When one door closes, another opens. 2 years later. Spring has come early this year. The cherry blossoms on Tui Street are already in full bloom, ready to explode in delicate pink. The sun streams through the kitchen window, lighting up the checked tablecloth, the colored mugs, the biscuits on the plate. It's Sunday. The house is full of voices. Of laughter. Of life. Sophie has grown. 7 years old just recently. She's at the table drawing. Tongue out with concentration. Colored pencils scattered everywhere. Nana Maggie, look. Nana Maggie. That's what she calls me. With that affectionate diminutive that fills my heart every time. Another drawing. Another house. More sons. But now there are more figures. We've grown as a family. Ellen makes coffee. She moves around the kitchen like it's her home. Because it is her home. Like it's everyone's home. Betty is in the lounge with Charles. They met at the community center. She didn't want to go to ballroom dancing. At my age. I convinced her. Now they laugh like teenagers. In love. Alive. Oksana went back to Ukraine. But we write. Emails full of grammatical errors, but loaded with affection. Her daughter graduated. Her son is getting married. Life goes on. And my children. David tried the lawsuit. Lost. As expected. I haven't seen him for 2 years. I know he's well, the business is thriving, he bought a new house. Good for him. Claire. Claire wrote to me at Christmas. A strange letter. Half apology, half reproach. I keep it in my Bible. Between the Psalms. I pray for her every day. That she finds peace. That she finds love. Their daughters, my blood granddaughters. I don't know them. But I have other granddaughters. Sophie and her friends from Sunday school. Maria, Betty's niece. Oksana's twins who came from Ukraine. They all call me Nana. They all fill my house with laughter. And the chair? Sophie asks, reaching her favorite part. What happened to the empty chair? The chair. I smile. The chair filled up. First with Betty. Then with your mummy. Then with you. Then with so many people we had to get more chairs. And more. And more. Until the house was full. Sophie shouts happily. Until the house was full. I confirm. Because that's how life is. When you let go of what's not meant for you, you make room for what is. The doorbell rings. More family arriving. It's the youth group from church. They come for Sunday lunch. With Nana Margaret, they say. As if I'm their real grandmother. And I am. In spirit. In love. The table expands. There's always room for one more. There's always enough food. Like the wedding at Cana. Like the multiplication of loaves. The everyday miracles of a blessed house. Shall we say grace? Says Father Williams, who's also come. We hold hands. A circle of love. A chain of grace. A family united not by blood but by choice. By calling. By response. Bless, Lord, this food and this family you've gathered. Not by chance, but by your providence. Not by merit, but by your grace. Amen, we all respond. And while I serve the soup, while I break the bread, while I listen to the crossed conversations, the laughter, the stories, I think of that woman alone in the hospital. How far away she seems. And how close she is. Because she was necessary. She was the crucible. The purification. The desert before the promised land. Nana. Sophie again, tireless. Are you happy? The question catches me off guard. So simple. So profound. Yes, my love. I'm happy. Happier than I ever imagined. More than before. Before. When I had children who weren't children. When I begged for love. When I confused blood with family. Much more than before. Because now I know what real love is. Love that chooses. Love that stays. Love that multiplies. After lunch, while the young ones wash dishes, while we elders have coffee, while the children play in the lounge, I step out to the small garden. The same garden where I cried so many times. Where I waited for calls that never came. Where I sowed tears. Now it's full of flowers. Roses that Betty planted. Jasmine that Ellen brought. Herbs the young people tend. Like my life. Where there were thorns, now there are flowers. Where there was loneliness, now there's company. Where there was death, now there's life. Thank you, Lord. I whisper, looking at the sky. Thank you for not giving me what I asked for, but what I needed. A hand rests on my shoulder. It's Betty. Thinking. Remembering. Thanking. Me too. Every day I thank God for the day you got sick. It sounds strange. But I understand. The illness that was salvation. The pain that was a door. The loss that was gain. Coming in. They are going to pray the rosary. Of course. Wouldn't miss it. We go in together. To the house full of voices. Of prayers. Of life. The lounge is packed. We don't all fit. Some standing. Others sitting on the floor. Sophie on my lap. Like a real granddaughter. Like the granddaughter I chose. Or that life chose for me. For the Pope's intentions. Rosa begins. For broken families. Someone continues. For prodigal children. Another adds. For lonely mothers. Says Ellen, looking at me. For the conversion of my children David and Claire. I add, without pain, without rancor, with hope. Because real love doesn't hold grudges. Real love waits. Like the father of the prodigal son. Like good mothers always do. For all families. Father Williams concludes. Those of blood and those of spirit. Those that life gives us and those we choose. While the Hail Marys rise like incense. While voices unite in one prayer. While the Spirit fills the house. I think about the mystery of life's plan. How it turns evil into good. Curse into blessing. Cross into resurrection. I had 2 children and lost them. Now I have dozens. I had a family that abandoned me. Now I have one that seeks me out. I was alone. Now I overflow with company. The hospital chair. Green plastic, with chrome metal legs. Still there. In some room. Waiting for another lonely soul. I wish I could speak to them. Tell them, don't despair. Life has a plan. When one door closes, another opens. When your own abandon you, you find a new family. When you think it's the end, it's just the beginning. But everyone must make their own journey. Live their own desert. Find their own promised land. I found mine. At 70. When I thought it was too late. When I believed everything was over. And it turned out everything was about to begin. The rosary ends. People start saying goodbye. With long hugs. With promises to return. With see you tomorrow because many come back daily. The house empties. But never completely. There's always someone. Ellen staying for dinner. Sophie doing homework. Betty popping by to check if I need anything. At nightfall, when the last visitors have gone, when the house recovers some calm. I sit in my favorite armchair. Bible in hand. Glasses on nose. I read Psalm 68, God places the lonely in families. A home. Not just a house. A home. With family warmth. With real love. With constant presence. I have it. I live it. I celebrate it every day. And as I prepare for bed, as I turn off the lights one by one, as the house sinks into the holy silence of night, one last prayer rises from my heart. Thank you, Lord, for the empty chair that taught me about the full table. For the lost children who led me to the found children. For the pain that became joy. Because your ways are not our ways. And your ways are always better. The hospital chair is far away. But its lesson is close. Engraved in my heart. Written in my life. We are never alone. Even if it seems so. Life has a family waiting. Even if we can't see it. We just need to open our eyes. Open our hearts. Open our hands. And let life fill what we cannot fill. With real love. With real family. With real life. The chair is no longer empty. It never will be again. The hospital chair exists. Somewhere. Green plastic. Waiting for another lonely soul. Perhaps they'll read this story. Perhaps they'll know they're not alone. Perhaps they'll discover that when one door closes, another always opens. Perhaps they'll understand that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the love that chooses you when others don't. underscore 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 underscore. Thank you for joining me on this journey of the heart. I know many of you have lived similar stories, abandonment that seemed final. But remember, no ending is final. Life always has another chapter. And love always finds a way. Next time I'll tell you another story. Of another soul who found light in the darkness. Because every pain hides a resurrection, every cross prepares a glory. If this story touched your heart, leave a heavy black heart hash, share it with someone who might need hope. And in the comments, tell us, what kind of story would you like to hear next? What theme would touch you most deeply? Who knows, your idea might become our next video. See you in the next tale, where another soul will find their path, their redemption, their personal miracle. Because life never stops writing love stories. And every life is a blank page waiting for love's pen. Until then, remember, today's empty chair could be tomorrow's full table. It just takes a little faith and a lot of love. Original screenplay written by Luca Mackin.